Before going the topic CA prostate, I just give you a brief information regarding the prostate gland itself. It is male sexual gland, as you all know. It is pear-shaped, about weight is 20 to 24 gram, size of walnut, helps control urinary flow, produces fluid component of semen, produce PSA, that is specifically of prostate specific antigen. Prostate is a retroperitoneal walnut-sized gland located behind the base of penis, in front of rectum and below the urinary bladder. It surrounds the neck of the bladder and urethra. Tube-like channel that carries urine and semen through the penis. Primary function of prostate is to produce the seminal fluid which protects, nourishes and transports the sperms. This is in picture. This is prostate. It is just at the base of the penis, inferior to the urinary bladder and anterior to the rectum. This is the prostate, and this is ejaculatory duct. And this ejaculatory duct is connected with the this is a seminal vesicle that connected with ejaculatory ducts towards the urethra. Okay. The prostate gland is the largest of accessory glands of the male reproductive tract, approximately 3 cm long. The urethra exits from the bladder and traverses the prostate before exiting to the penile urethra. The glandular part comprises approximately 2/3 of the prostate, and the other 1/3 is fibromuscular. It is a collection of about 30 to 50 branched tubuloalveolar glands. The ducts empty into the prostatic urethra, which crosses the prostate. The prostate has 3 distinct zones. The central zone, which occupies about 25% of the gland's volume. This zone consists of mucosal glands, which open directly into the urethra. The peripheral zone, which is about 70%, and this is the major zone, which is about 70%, and also the major site of prostatic cancer. We will discuss. The glands of this zone opens into the urethra via the long ducts. And the third zone is the transition zone, which is of medical importance because it is a site where most benign prostatic hyperplasia originates. Glands of this zone are submucosal and they open into the urethra via short ducts. The blood supply of the prostate. Arterial supply is from anterior division of the internal iliac artery. The branches are inferior vesical artery, which gives branch to the upper portion of the prostate, middle rectal artery, and internal pudendal artery. These 3 main supplies the prostate gland. The venous drainage is prostatic plexus of veins. This valve-less communication exists between the prostate and the vertebral plexus, through which prostatic carcinoma is spread to the vertebral column and to the skull. Through the prostatic plexus is valve-less communication in between the prostate and vertebral plexus. Innervations. Prostate is innervated with parasympathetic through S2, S3, S4 and sympathetic fibers from the thoracolumbar level L1, L2. The pudendal nerve is the major nerve supply leading to somatic innervation of the striated sphincter and the levator ani. The prostatic sphincter and vesical neck or internal sphincter is under alpha adrenergic control. Lymphatic drainage, obturator and internal iliac lymphatic channels. External iliac, perisacral and periaortic lymph nodes also drains these lymphatics. So coming to the topic of CA prostate, incidence in epidemiology. Most common malignant tumor in men over the age of 65 years. It is second most common cancer in males of all the cancers. The prevalence of CA prostate increases the most rapidly with age. The histologic evidence of CA prostate in 10% of men in their third decade, 34% of men in their fifth decade, and 67% of men in ninth decade. So this incidence or this histologic evidence comes from the autopsy of the different patients. When when the patient died and they autopsied and they say they saw in third decade there are chances of CA prostate is only 10%. In fifth decade it would increase up to 34%. In ninth decade 67% of men are involved in the CA prostate. However, unlike most cancers which have a peak age of incidence, the incidence of CA prostate continues to increase with advancing age. So the etiology is hormonal through testosterone, dihydrotestosterone. Growth of prostate cancer, like benign prostatic epithelium, is largely under the control of promotional influence of testosterone and its potent metabolite, that is dihydrotestosterone. Testosterone is converted into potent metabolite dihydrotestosterone. So during when there is usually in tumor or CA prostate and there is androgen ablation by archirectomy, so the result is programmed epithelial cell death, apoptosis and involution of the prostate. So second etiology is diet. Some diets have the role of aggravating the CA prostate, and some diets are inhibitors of the CA prostate growth. So vitamin D has a major role it plays to inhibit the CA prostate. Mechanism unknown, but these are the some antioxidants like lycopenes, which is present in tomato, it inhibits the CA prostate growth. Polyphenols present in pomegranate, blueberry, green tea, isothiocyanates, cruciferous vegetables, and omega-3 unsaturated fatty acids present in unsaturated fatty acids. These are the inhibitors of CA prostate growth. Other risk factors are increasing age. As already I told you, the increasing age can cause more advanced CA prostate or more chances of CA prostate than race. It is more common in black, and family history is 5% is believed to be inherited. 10 to 15% of younger men who develop prostate cancer have a positive family history. Some studies suggest that obesity is associated with increased risk of more advanced disease and higher recurrence rate after the treatment. So carcinoma of the prostate usually originates in the peripheral zone of the prostate. So sometimes the prostatectomy for benign enlargement of the gland confers no protection from subsequent carcinoma. Why? Because usually or sometimes when we are doing the prostatectomy, that will be inadequate, so the peripheral zone remains behind with the capsule. So it is more common in peripheral zone. So there are chances of chances of subsequent carcinoma. These are the one picture that shows this is transition zone. This transition zone is around the urethra, and this transition zone is more common for the benign prostate hyperplasia. So when we are doing surgery for BPH, we are doing the TURP through this channel, and we are cutting this part of the transition zone, and then the central zone, another zone, and third is peripheral zone. This 70% contains the peripheral zone, and which also is more common for tumor. So tumor again located 70% peripheral zone, 20% in transition zone, and 10% in the central zone. Central gland most difficult to localize carcinoma because of overlapping signal intensity with normal gland and hypertrophy. Pathology. CA prostate was first described by Venetian anatomist Niccolò Massa in 1536. At the similar time to the first anatomical drawing of the prostate by Vesalius in Padua. In 1786, John Hunter demonstrated that castrating young male animal prevented the growth of prostate. So, over 95% of the cancers of the prostate are adenocarcinoma, that is the carcinoma of acina or ductal epithelium. Of the other 5%, the 90% are transition cell carcinoma, which comes from the bladder, because like prostatic urethra has transition cell epithelium. So 90% is transition carcinoma. Only 5% or 10%, 5 to 10%, the remaining cancer is neuroendocrine, small cell carcinoma or sarcomas, that is rhabdomyosarcoma. So this sarcoma is rare cancer and mostly seen in the childhood. Sometimes in young adults like 18, 19 years of age, there is CA prostate, that is rhabdomyosarcoma. Clinical presentations, mostly patients came with asymptomatic, only detected in association with elevated serum PSA or incidental abnormal DRE. I mean, they have some other problem. They come and they did the serum PSA, and that serum PSA shows the elevation of serum PSA. Usually, patient are asymptomatic, but some patients have bladder outlet obstruction, abnormal DRE, raised PSA with abnormal DRE and raised PSA 47%. Some patients has urinary irritative and obstructive symptoms like frequency, urgency, nocturia, or obstructive may be irritative, obstructive may be intermittency, incomplete impeding, poor stream. Some patients may present in hematospermia, blood and sperm, because sperm and seminal fluid comes from the prostate. If it is that has CA, there may be chances of blood in sperms and semen. Some patients present hematuria, even clot retention. Some patients have perineal discomforts. Very rare patients present in renal failure, in last stage renal failure, anuria due to ureteric obstruction. There is a huge growth of CA prostate that push the bladder and obstruct both ureters, and patient present in renal failure or patient present in anuria. And once patient present in our OPD or our emergency, and we have diagnosed, we are doing the digital rectal examination that shows there is a hot prostate. And few patients present in metastatic symptoms like bone pain, pathological fractures. They are not present in our OPD. They are presenting in orthopedic OPDs, in neurosurgery OPDs, because of they have spinal cord compressions and they have anorexia. So they when they see the patient of spinal cord compression, pathological fractures, they just advised serum PSA, and that serum PSA is raised. Then they send us the patient, and that this patient is CA prostate. Then we again worked up that from where and how we can help him. So some patients present with difficult erection and ejaculation. Diagnosis. How can we diagnose the CA prostate? We can diagnose CA prostate by physical examination. That is most common and most important is digital rectal examination, and then laboratory investigation, in which the most common is serum PSA. Sometimes imaging, it shows once it is diagnosed, then we go for the imagings, transrectal ultrasound or MRI pelvis. And third, the diagnostic point investigation is biopsy. So before going for digital rectal examination, always send serum PSA first, then go for the digital rectal examination. If you manipulate the prostate, there are false chances of elevated false positive result of serum PSA. So do send serum PSA first, then do the digital rectal examination, and then if needed, then biopsy. So for digital rectal examination, the prostate gland is asymmetrical enlarged or distorted. It is large, asymmetrical enlarged and distorted. Irregular in contour and heterogeneous in texture. Some areas are hard and craggy mass, others are soft. The median sulcus may be absent. The rectal mucosa may be tethered to the gland. Most prostatic carcinoma can be diagnosed by rectal examination, but there are false positive and false negative results. The only other physical sign will be those caused by metastasis, like cord compressions, like bone pain, like pathologic fractures. The fact that an abnormal DRE with normal PSA carries a 30% chance of predating CA prostate. Sometimes the PSA is normal, but we are suspecting that the patient has some abnormal rectal examination, either in both lobes or in single lobe. There are a lot of patients who are like this, normal PSA. So, if the clinician is suspecting that there is abnormal DRE but normal PSA, we should go for prostatic biopsy. There are 30% chances of predating CA prostate. So the serum PSA. This is a serum test, prostatic specific antigen. What is PSA? PSA is a glycoprotein enzyme produced by columnar acinar and ductal prostatic epithelial cells. This PSA is a member of human calcarein family. Its function is to liquefy the ejaculate and enabling the fertilization. This is normally produced by prostate glands. The normal range of serum PSA in men is less than 4 nanogram per ml. Normal half-life of the serum PSA is 2.2 days. Then it disappears and again produced. Indication of checking serum PSA. In which patients we have to check the serum PSA. So when the patient comes to you with lower urinary tract symptoms, apart from suspecting CA prostate, you have to exclude the BPH from CA prostate. So if the patient comes to you with lower urinary tract symptoms, you have to send serum PSA. This is our baseline investigation in prostate, even in benign condition. If patient we are suspecting that there is abnormal rectal examination, then after 2 days of DRE, we have to send serum PSA so that the result will come the normal. And if post DRE, if we are early, we are sending this serum PSA, there are chances of elevated serum PSA. And if we are suspecting that there are patient has progressive bone pain, especially back pain, patient's old age, 7 decade, 8 decade, 6 decade, he has progressive bone pain, or the patient has unexplained anemia, anorexia or weight loss, even spontaneous thromboembolism or unilateral leg swelling, or monitoring of prostate cancer patients. Already patient is diagnosed with CA prostate, and this serum PSA we are monitoring the CA prostate on serum PSA. So these are the indications of checking serum PSA. The cancer detection rate using measurement of PSA is between 2% and 4%. And approximately 30% of men with an elevated PSA will have prostate cancer confirmed by biopsy. So 30% with abnormal DRE, they are predating CA prostate, and 30% with elevated serum PSA, we can have prostate cancer confirmed by biopsy. Unfortunately, 20% of men with clinical significant prostate cancer will have PSA values within the normal range. That is 20 to 30%. Clinically significant prostate cancer but have normal PSA values. There is therefore controversy over the usefulness of PSA alone as a screening procedure. Condition which cause elevated serum PSA but excluding CA prostate. There are some other conditions that causing the raised serum PSA, but there is not actually the CA prostate, like in benign prostate hyperplasia, as I already told you, that this is a normal serum PSA is normally secreted by the prostate. Once there is enlarged prostate, there is more chances of secreting the serum PSA. So, if the patient has like 90 gram prostate that is benign and the serum PSA is more than 4, for example 6, 7, so we as a clinician detecting the serum PSA density. That serum PSA density is basically the value of serum PSA divided by the volume of prostate. So it should be less than 0.14. If it is more than 0.14, then we should go for the biopsy, otherwise we shouldn't. So when hyperplasia may cause elevated serum PSA. If the patient has underlying urinary tract infection or prostatitis, there are more chances of elevated serum PSA, acute prostatitis, and even chronic prostatitis. If the patient have history of post-catheterization 2 days, 3 days before, or the patient has history of TURP or prostatic biopsy. So, always, once there is manipulation of the prostate, there is chances of elevated serum PSA, even ejaculation or post-DRE. In history of infection or instrumentation, PSA should be requested at least 28 days after the event. So the patient, if the patient has UTI or the patient has history of TURP, so we should not advise him serum PSA if we are suspecting some severe prostate. What else? So we should wait for 28 days. Otherwise, there is chances of false positive elevated serum PSA. And for ejaculation DRE, we should be wait for at least 2 days so that result comes normal. The third diagnostic tool is biopsy. So biopsy is of two types. One is transrectal ultrasound guided biopsy, and other we are doing is manual, that is through digital rectal examination manual biopsy. Transrectal ultrasound provides imaging of the prostate and seminal vesicle, the peripheral transition zones, cysts and calcification within the prostate can be seen through the transrectal ultrasound. Before going for the biopsy, there are some prerequisites required. Once we are planning for the biopsy, the patient is admitted in our ward and we are planning that tomorrow we will do his biopsy. So before going for biopsy, we should have at least complete blood count to see the platelets, which is more than 150 lakh, and the total leukocyte count, which shows there is no any underlying infection. It's normal. We have to check the INR. It should be less than 1.5. INR, PTA, PTT INR. So biopsy is not safe in patients who are on warfarin. The patients of warfarin, they are maintaining their internal normalized ratio between 2.5 to 3. So their blood is less very thin, and there are more chances of bleeding. So if we are injecting a biopsy needle, there are more chances of bleeding, so we cannot even control the bleeding. We should have at least normal INR. Third is urine culture. Urine culture should be negative. Positive urine culture is contraindication of prostatic biopsy. We should not even go if the patient has positive urine culture which is untreated. Yes, if the patient has positive urine culture 1 week back and then he is treated and he has no time to reculture, so we can be proceed. But otherwise it is contraindicated. Rectum should be empty. Use clean enema. Clean enema is a fluid for emptying the rectum. So once if there is a stool, how can you do the digital rectal examination, and how can you palpate the prostate if you are doing with manual or even with the transrectal? There is a huge probe of transrectal ultrasound, and you should start antimicrobial prophylaxis 30 minutes before the procedure and 48 hours after the procedure. you should have a broad spectrum antimicrobial. Usually we are advising the ciprofloxacin, that is quinolone. So the indication for TRUS with biopsies. United Kingdom NICE guidelines stress the importance of discussing the risk and benefit of biopsy. The use of nomogram to predict results, that is in page, allowing time for decision making before proceeding. So the indications are the abnormal digital examination or elevated PSA, and few few are the previous this biopsies showing multifocal prostate intraepithelial neoplasia, or this is another pathological assay. Previous biopsies normal but PSA rising or DRE abnormal. Previous biopsies showing low risk localized prostate cancer is part of acute surveillance protocol for low risk localized prostate cancer. To confirm viable prostate cancer following treatment, if salvage treatment is being considered. So complication of the prostatic biopsy: occasional vasovagal fainting immediately after procedure, 0.5% risk of septicemia or prostatic abscess, which may be life-threatening. If the patient is urine culture positive and you are doing the prostatic biopsy, there are more chances of septicemia. So be careful. That is very less percent risk, but it is life-threatening. 0.5% risk of rectal bleeding, which will be treated by swab soaked adrenaline or rectal balloon. 2 to 11% acute or chronic or clot urinary retention, mild hepatospermia and hematuria. These are the complications of prostatic biopsy. So this is basically prostatic biopsy. This is sectant, traditional sectant protocol. Six biopsies from the prostate. This is traditional sectant protocol. A parasagittal, base, mid-gland, apex from each side. And there are other 8-core biopsy, 12-core biopsy, and sometimes if the patients who has more chance of prostatic biopsy, but biopsy is even there is elevated serum PSA and biopsy shows benign hyperplasia or no cancer, and we are suspecting, clinician is suspecting that there is more chances of CA prostate, so we will go for saturation biopsy, that is 20-core, 22-core biopsies, or we can go for this. This is a transrectal ultrasound scanning, and ultrasound probe is inserted into the rectum to guide the biopsy needle into the correct position, so that several core biopsies can be taken from different areas of the prostate. This is a typical triad of diagnosis: serum PSA, DRE and biopsy. This is a DRE and this prostate, and this is PSA from blood, and this is TRUS guided biopsy. Spread. CA prostate has 3 types of spreads. It can be direct invasion towards the seminal vesicles, to the periprostatic tissue and towards the bladder neck and rectum. It has a lymphatic spread, that is internal, external and common iliac lymph nodes, and it has hematogenous towards the 90% hematogenous through the periprostatic venous plexus towards the lumbosacral spine. Now the staging of CA prostate. The staging of CA prostate is the TNM staging system, the histology grading Gleason score, post-surgical evaluation, and imaging bone metastasis. This figure shows the TNM classification and the T. T is basically, so T naught, no tumor. This is not shows in picture. T naught is there is no tumor. TX, tumor cannot be assessed. Then T1 is subdivided in T1A, T1B, T1C. T1A, this one. T1A is 5% URP. It means the cancer is not palpable or visible by imaging. Incidental finding in less than 5% of URP specimen. It is found in up to 18% of URP, T1A. T1B, cancer not palpable or visible by imaging. Incidental finding more than 5% of URP specimen. This is more than 5%. T1C, cancer non-palpable or visible by imaging. In all the T, the cancer is not palpable or visible by imaging. T1C is cancer is not palpable or visible by imaging, present in needle biopsy taken because of elevated PSA. There are chances of elevated PSA in T1C, but in T1A and T1B there is no chance, even no chances of elevated PSA. These are basically the incidental findings of so T2A is again subdivided into T2 is again subdivided into T2A, T2B, T2C. T2A is palpable tumor, that is half of the one lobe, palpable in half of the one lobe only. एक लोब का भी आधे में palpable हो. T2B is half, it is in the palpable in more than half of the one lobe. More than half of one lobe. T2C, palpable in both lobes. T3 again divided into T3A, T3B, T3C. T3A, palpable tumor, locally advanced through prostatic capsule into periprostatic fat, uni or bilateral and mobile. T3B, palpable tumor locally advanced going into seminal vesicle and bilateral capsular perforations. And T3C is basically the seminal vesicle. This is T2B, there is no only perforation of the bilateral capsular, bilateral capsular perforation in T3B and T3C invasion of the seminal vesicle. T4 is palpable tumor, field locally advanced, and it is in the bladder neck, invasion of bladder neck, rectum and external sphincter in T4A, and invasion of in the muscles, pelvic muscles, levator muscles in T4B. So then N, regionally lymph nodes, obturator, internal iliac, external iliac, perisacral lymph nodes. NX, nodes cannot be assessed. N0, no regional lymph node metastasis. N1, metastasis in regional lymph nodes, where one node or in many nodes. So if there is metastasis in the nodes, that is the N1. Then the M, that is metastasis. MX cannot be assessed. M0, no distant metastasis. M is itself divided M1A, M1B, M1C. M1A is distant metastasis, non-regional lymph nodes. The regional lymph nodes are the obturator, internal iliac, external iliac, perisacral lymph nodes. But if they are distant metastasis, apart from these regional lymph nodes, there is M1A. M1B is towards the bone, metastasis towards the bone, and A1C is other side of the bone, like in lung or in liver, whatever, and brain, where. So the grading. The Gleason grading system relies upon the low power appearance of glandular architecture under the microscope. Grades ranges from 1 to 5. If the entire specimen has only one pattern present, then both the primary and secondary grades are reported as the same grade. So basically the Gleason grading is a histological finding. The pattern of cells, the tumor cells itself, is divided in 5 patterns. So the commonest pattern that is the primary pattern, and the second commonest is the secondary pattern. So the Gleason score or Gleason sum is obtained by adding the primary and secondary grades together. A Gleason grades ranges from 1 to 5. Gleason scores or sums thus range from 2 to 10. So well differentiated tumors have a Gleason sum of 2 to 4. Moderately differentiated tumors have sum of 5 to 6, and poorly differentiated tumors have sum of 8 to 10. 7 is remaining. So the patients with the Gleason sum of 7 who have primary Gleason grade is 4 and secondary 3 has the worst prognosis, and the patient who has Gleason sum of 7 has a primary grade is 3 and secondary is 4 that has little bit good prognosis as compared to 4 plus 3. So the treatment of CA prostate is divided basically in 3 categories. If the CA prostate, localized CA prostate, locally advanced CA prostate, or metastatic CA prostate. So first we are discussing this localized CA prostate. Watchful waiting. Watchful waiting means we have to do nothing, no treatment, just watch and wait. So the indication of watchful waiting, Gleason score 2 to 4, disease at any age, there is no age. Gleason score 5 and 6, disease in elderly or unfit patients with a life expectancy considered to be less than 10 years, for whom the curative treatment would not be contemplated, or stage T1A disease with normal PSA. Watchful waiting protocols are every 6 months. Patient should be assessed on history, on physical examination including digital rectal examination, serum PSA level. If disease progress during follow-up, palliative treatment is recommended. So there is no intention of curing the disease. Understand? The second treatment option is active surveillance. The difference of watchful waiting and active surveillance is that we have a curative intent in this active surveillance. Active surveillance has a different goal from watchful waiting, which is to identify and treat localized cancers that are demonstrably progressing with curative intent, whilst avoiding over-treatment for the majority. Sometimes the patient has low disease of CA prostate, and we are treating, we start the treatment, and we give radical prostatectomy or external radiotherapy, but patient needs nothing because he has a lower stage disease. So why should we start the treatment? We should wait till his disease become progress. If his disease become progress, then we will go for the intention of curing his disease. So the indications of active surveillance are lower stage T1C to T2A. T2A is half of the one lobe, less than half of the one lobe, or the Gleason scores less than 6, that is moderately differentiated, or serum PSA is less than 10 nanogram per ml. Active surveillance follow protocols. The patient is actively followed. Like in watchful waiting, we follow the patient after 6 months, but here we are following the patient serum PSA every 3 months, rectal examination every 6 months, and we have to repeat the biopsy for assessing the upgrading of tumor on histopathology, so 2 yearly repeat biopsy. The third is gold standard treatment is radical prostatectomy for localized CA prostate. So it is indicated in whom the life expectancy is more than 10 years. Number 1, patient may have the Gleason score even more than 8, high, poorly differentiated carcinoma, PSA level more than 20 nanogram, or stage is T3, even T3C, which contains even T3 stages, even involving the or invading the seminal vesicles. So we can go for radical prostatectomy, that is gold standard. What we did in radical prostatectomy, we have to remove the whole prostate with capsule, we have to remove the seminal vesicles. So the approaches of radical prostatectomy are 4. We can do retropubic, that is open surgery, and then other is open perineal, and manual laparoscopic, and robot assisted laparoscopic. These 4 approaches of radical prostatectomy we can do, but the main indications and the life expectancy should be more than 10 years, because this is the major procedure, and if we are suspecting that this patient has no comorbid, for example a patient who is 60 years old, he has only diabetes which is under control, and he may live his life 20 years more if he controlling his diabetes. So the patient has localized CA prostate which is about 500 T2C, and the Gleason score is 25, and with PSA level is 25 and Gleason score is 7, even 4+3. So we can give him this option of radical prostatectomy. But usually in our setup, patients are poor, and they usually always present in metastatic condition, or even in T4 stage. So we have no option of radical prostatectomy for them. Then another option is external beam radiotherapy. This radical external beam radiotherapy means the intention is curative. This is very equivalent even option. This option is equivalent with the radical prostatectomy, but problem is that the patient has life expectancy is more than 5 years and Gleason score even 6. So all this clinically localized prostate. Contraindication of external beam radiotherapy. These external beam radiotherapy is basically the cycles, even 15 cycles of 66 Gara of radiotherapy. So contraindication, the patient may develop severe lower urinary tract symptoms, inflammatory bowel disease because of radiotherapy, and the patient may have previous pelvic radiation. These are the contraindication, because already if we are doing with these patients EBRT, so the already patient has severe LUTs, he may develop even more severe, even cystitis and hematuria. So we have to wait, or we have to give another option. So another option is brachytherapy. The commonly used low dose rate brachytherapy is ultrasound guided transperineal implantation of radioactive seeds. This brachytherapy is minimal invasive and requires general anesthesia, and is completed in 1 to 2 stage. Very easy, but the indication is limited. This is only low and intermediate risk localized CA prostate in T1 and T2. Gleason score less than 7, PSA more than 20, life expectancy more than 5 years. So this is a good option, but it is not ideal option for a patient home, because usually in our setup patient presented in high grade diseases, and that is T3, T4. So then minimally invasive therapy, that is indicated in localized and radio recurrent prostate cancers, like cryotherapy. These are innovation. Basically, it is not practically used in our setups, even in SIUT. So cryotherapy, this involves transperineal ultrasound guided placement of cryoprobes that delivering organ or liquid nitrogen at temperature of -20 to -40 degrees centigrade. When applied in 2 cycles of freeze thaw, cellular necrosis occurs and that cryotherapy is done. Another option is HIFU, high intensity focus ultrasound. It allows selective destruction of the tissue at up to 4 cm depth without damaging intervening structures. Tissue is heated to the point of coagulative necrosis over 85 degrees centigrade by high energy ultrasound transmitted to the prostate using a transrectal device. Another option is photodynamic therapy. This involves parenteral administration of chlorophyll derived for photosensitizing drug that is called TOCAD, followed by light activation using transperineal template guided interstitial laser. The free radical generated cause thrombosis of nearby vasculature and ischemic tissue necrosis. So the now comes to the management of locally advanced CA prostate. Locally advanced CA prostate, that is T3 and T4 disease. These patients are at significant risk of disease progression. Early androgen ablation is favored if close follow-up is not possible. The patients is far, like we are in Karachi, the patient is from Larkana. So close follow-up is not possible for him. So I think we should go for early androgen ablation. Androgen ablation contains the basically medical and surgical castrations, either bilateral archiectomy or luteinizing hormone releasing hormone injections. So वो दे दें, जान छुड़ा दें, मरीज़ फिर फॉलोअप में ना रहे तो ज़्यादा बेहतर है. And if we are a patient is in close follow-up and he is from like your city, then you can easily follow him. So you can go for even EBRT in combination with anti-androgens, or sometimes brachytherapy, but brachytherapy has no role. EBRT is a good option. So for the sexually active, a careful conservative approach with the adoption of androgen ablation when symptoms arise is reasonable. Androgen ablation coupled with radiotherapy is a standard treatment for younger men with T3 disease. Treatment of metastatic CA prostate. Once metastases have developed, the outlook is poor. For patients with symptoms, there is no dilemma. Androgen ablation will provide symptomatic relief in over 2/3 of the patients. Androgen ablation therapy methods are surgical castration, it is bilateral archiectomy, the medical castration, luteinizing hormone releasing hormone agonist and luteinizing hormone releasing hormone antagonist, and is a third option maximal androgen blockade, that is medical or surgical castration plus anti-androgen, that is bicalutamide or flutamide. So how these surgical castration works? Basically, as I told you about the etiology, that is testosterone dihydrotestosterone. Testosterone is secreted by the testes. That testosterone comes to the prostate, that convert to its active form dihydrotestosterone. Dihydrotestosterone active metabolite promotes the prostate cell growth, and it decreases the programmed cell death, apoptosis, which is basically normal. So once you are doing the bilateral archiectomy, the patient's testosterone level becomes down. So there is less decreased chances. There is chances of decreased prostate cancer. So medical castration is same thing. Luteinizing hormone released from the anterior pituitary attacked on the Leydig cells of the testes and produce the testosterone. So once you have agonist, it means you are giving the luteinizing hormone. Once you are giving luteinizing hormone, there is first there is increased level of testosterone, and there is a storm of growth of prostate cancer. But once continue you are giving luteinizing hormone, releasing hormone, there is negative feedback towards the anti-pituitary, and there is decreased LH hormone. So the medical androgen blockage is medical or surgical castration plus anti-androgen bioclutamide, flutamide. This is, I think, for patient with asymptomatic metastasis, the timing of treatment is less clear. So systemic chemotherapy with docetaxel should be considered in younger, fitter men. This is all about presentation.